Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm showing 6 p.m. I'm going to call this regular December board meeting to order. This time, Dr. Townsend, would you lead our invocation, please?
Yes, sir. Dear Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for this group of people helping make decisions for Pickens County students, Pickens County staff. Please be with us as we get through the rest of the year and the rest of the school year as well. Please be with our kids, our parents, our staff as they travel through the Christmas holidays. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Dr. Townsend. While we're standing, Miss Enos, would you lead us in the pledge?
Certainly. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. This time, brings us down to section 4, approval of agenda. Dr. Townsend, do you have any amendments to the agenda?
I do. I have 2 amendments. First, we're requesting to amend the agenda to add approval of client services agreement with Reliant Health LLC. This is a contract position for speech language pathologist assistant SLPA to reduce heavy SLP caseloads and paperwork responsibilities. And then second would be, it's Susan Kirkland. Second would be, we are requesting approval for a contract position for a psychology intern, paid internship to make Pickens County competitive beginning in January 2021, Joyner Freeman.
Okay, Dr. Townsend, we have 2 amendments to the agenda, both action items, one being J and one being K. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I'll make it.
Motion by Mr. Smith. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Holland. Any further discussion? All in favor? 5 and none opposed. The agenda is approved. And that brings us down to section 5, recognition. Turn it over to Director of Public Engagement, Ms. Destini Shope.
Good evening. Serving as a member of the Board of Education is a tremendous responsibility and one that comes with its share of challenges and celebrations. This evening, we would like to honor one of our board members, Ms. Donna Enos. Ms. Enos was selected by her board peers to fulfill the vacated seat of Ms. Catherine White. Donna began her service to the students and families in our community as a board member in June of 2019. Prior to being selected to serve in this capacity, Ms. Enos worked as a teacher and coach in Pickens County as well as other counties. We appreciate her many contributions as a board member and wish her well in all that lies ahead of her. Ms. Enos, on behalf of your peers, Dr. Townsend, and the entire school system, we would like to say thank you for all of your contributions. And if you will please come forward, we have a gift that we would like to present. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your service.
Thank you. It's been an honor.
Would you like to
Appreciate
say?
it. I just want to say it's been an honor and thank you for allowing me to do this. Thank you.
Ms. Shope, and thank you, Ms. Enos, for your service. Next section 6, School Safety and Communication System. I believe this is a tag team presentation between Mr. Shea and Mr. Gilleland.
Okay, Mr. Gilleland, you said you're supposed to be up here. Just kidding. Good evening. I'm here to talk about an initiative that we are putting forward tonight. We've been working on this for a while. We brought it up in a lot of other conversations, but we finally got numbers together. We're ready to move forward with it. It's time to move. Some of the things we're looking at. Our current situation is our telephone system is very antiquated. We're on a very old system. It's very expensive to repair. At no point in time could we ever replace it. They don't make the components anymore. If we were to go back to an old system like we are now, it would be very, very costly. So I've been here 7 years, and I know that we've been talking about it for at least 9. This is the VoIP system. The proposal is we're going to use an integrated telephony system. We put this out. We worked with some companies. We tested this for the last few years here at the county level, technology, special ed, central registration. We've used the system. We've worked out many of the kinks. And to this day, we've never lost communication. And that's a big fear that people have when you go look at a VoIP system, is that once the internet goes down, you lose, all communication. And we've been using this for 2.5 years in our departments, and we have not lost it at all. Excuse me. So what we're looking at is a centralized system. We will utilize all of the components that we currently have in place, and as the backbone of our network, and we will then put VoIP phones in wherever there's a telephone right now, there'll be a VoIP phone. And what that just means is voice over IP, which is what we'll do is there's an initial cost for the phones themselves, but we own the phones, and unlike if teachers move a classroom, they've got to reprogram the voicemail for that teacher because it's a different room that gets managed. We move an office here. Someone decides that they're going to go work at transportation. They can take their phones with them and plug them in, and it's seamless. Everything's on a central directory. We can pick up a phone and we can dial any school with a 4-digit, any extension. So we don't have to go through the front switchboard of a school if we don't need to from our district. From the district office. Schools can do that as well, and they can call into the classrooms. The problem that we have, which is the other issue that is going on with this, is once we remove the telephones from our system, the high school, Pickens Junior High, we lose all intercoms because the phones are integrated with the intercom system at this point in time. So is the bell system. So if a child's walking down the hallway at Pickens High School and they're needed in the front office, if they're not anywhere near a classroom, they have to rely on someone to actually track them down and tell them to go to the front office. So once we remove those telephones, the other half of this program is to bring in a complete bell and intercom system and light up all areas of a building. We don't have common calls in the cafeteria, in the gymnasium, in the hallways. Those are all considered dark. There's no speakers out there. Some of the speakers that are old systems in the hallways now don't play any music, don't play anything at all. And a lot of the principals have asked us to light up their hallways, but especially this time of year, put a little bit of holiday music in the hallways, helps calm the students down. We'll be able to do that moving forward. So we're looking at standardization of paging. Every pager will look and act exactly the same. We get to customize any type of bell system, any type of paging. We get to make announcements from the central office. If we need to address graduating seniors, we could actually page into a classroom from here. We're also, on the flip side of this, a few years ago we came to you with a camera system for every teacher's classroom, and it came with a lapel mic. On that lapel mic was a panic button. Well, an emergency button. We don't want to call it a panic button. An emergency button. And when the teacher clicks the emergency button, it lights up the camera and immediately starts to record, so in case there's an issue in the classroom. Well, with this system, also integrates with the camera system. There's now will be a button on a wall like a normal standard intercom system. There, you can call the front office, or you could also hit the emergency button. The emergency button also integrates with the camera system and will start the camera as well. It also sends an alert to the front office, just like the lapel would, and it also emails any emergency responders that we need to, so administrators, nurses, whoever we want on that response team. So we take it from using our telephone systems to page into classrooms at some of the schools, to making that a completely separate system and isolating our intercoms, bells, pagers, all that stuff into a whole simple system. Let's talk about what happens next week at the high school. Okay, we have a modified schedule for testing, right? For final exams. That we would have to reprogram a whole bell system. You can have multiple bell systems. You could have an A day, a B day, a C day. You could have 9th grade bell system. You could have a 12th grade bell system. You could have an activities bell system, and all that can be programmed into it. And it's as simple as once it's set up, you hit a button and you can shift it a day if you want to. You can skip it. You can pick the other day you want. I think of the largest school, Mr. Wallace's school. You know, if he needed to address just senior homerooms, he wouldn't have to do an all-call like he does now. He can actually set up zones and page and intercom just into those rooms themselves. The elementaries can do that as well. Their 4th grade or their kindergarten, get those kindergartners to calm down a little bit in the morning. You can set up the zones on the intercom and paging. So it's a lot more than what it used to be, where you stood at the front office and you hit a button and you made the morning announcements, where you picked up the phone and you made the morning announcements. This is just a complete and whole new system. So the infrastructure that we have now, working with the companies that we know, ETC, Audio Enhancement, we believe that we've come together with a nice package. It does have a price tag, but like I said, I've been here for seven years. I know that VoIP the telephone system has been talked about being replaced for a minimum of 9 years. And every time we create a room, create a classroom, you know, we're scrambling around for telephones that work with our system. Okay. PJHS is a prime example. We opened up a brand new wing over there. We had to move an old telephone system and patch it in and make it work. But there's no room on the current system. We can't add new extensions. We can't add new rooms. We can't do any of that. So this puts us and leverages us for growth in the future and gives us a reliable system that we can depend on. So this is our proposed system: standardized bell systems, announcements, hands-free intercoms, flexibility, programmable, and we'll use the current speakers in the classroom with audio enhancement materials. It automatically integrates with what they have. We'll upgrade all the switches to PoE. I don't want to talk over anybody's head, but power over Ethernet makes us not have to plug in the phones. They plug into a network jack and that's it. Okay, they can be in line with a computer. They can run the computer through that, or they can be a standalone. Okay, so wherever there's an internet jack, you can take your phone and plug it in. Okay, and it'll be your extension no matter where you go. Okay. This also gives us a lot more flexibility when it comes to voicemails. Teachers can forward. There's call waiting, all that stuff that comes with a modern telephone system. Oh yeah, another thing that audio enhancement will do is that we're in talks with them as well. They're going to turn all the classroom cameras into webcams. So when a teacher is teaching and using Google Meets or one of their classrooms, we know that some students are distance at this point in time, some students are traditional, but a teacher could turn on a Google Meet and that camera in the classroom could capture the whole board instead of having to carry around her laptop or do that kind of stuff. This is all part of that same system. Okay. Questions?
Is there any type of battery backup if the power's down? Does any of it still work?
If the internet goes down, okay, and our communication to the outside world is shut down, we cannot call out. We can still call school to school. But with every system, they will leave in place emergency telephone lines, faxes, There'll be a fax line at every school still, if more than one, depending on that. And those are normally used as your emergency channels.
But your intercom and your bells will still work?
Yes. As long as we don't lose complete power to the building, you know. But if we lose internet, it's completely internal. Okay? Our telephone system is completely internal. So if there's a guy riding down Highway 5 or Highway 53 and takes out the fiber, you know, he shuts down that part of the county. The rest of the county can still function as well. So.
None of this is foolproof, but this is much further along than we are now and have been. Well, we can't even buy parts. ETC was good enough to, when they changed some systems out, they brought the old antiquated equipment, gave it pretty well to us and said, this is all the parts we got left, take care of it, because when we need them, we're going to have to come get them. So, it's been that way since I've been here. And we're hanging on with the shoestring because at the junior high, this summer when we were finishing up phones, Chad strung me up one weekend. He said, our phone, we don't have enough room, we don't have enough jacks, and we're moving these offices to this one, so they don't have a phone now. I said, but we'll put them in the offices you gotta have them in, and we'll get by. We're working on something. So this is what we're working on.
Looks like a great plan.
Thank you. Thank you.
Later in the agenda, you'll see the price tag for it, what it is.
After you run out the.
Yeah, I'm leaving then.
Yes. It is SPOS eligible, and we have spoken to Amy, just not, yes. Amy says it is SPOS eligible and everything. It's also E-rate eligible for a lot of the things that we're doing. So a chunk of what we're using this also is some of those PoE switches. If for the closets themselves, will be replaced with E-rate money. So it's not all falling into the SPOS bucket. Some of it's falling into the E-rate bucket. And they'll work hand in hand. The other issue this will do as part of this PoE upgrade is we have principals asking us for new cameras everywhere. You know, they need a camera for this dark part of the parking lot, or they need a camera over their serving line in the cafeteria. We don't have any room in those closets. Okay, so changing all of our switches out to PoE switches, it allows us more flexibility in cameras as well. So we can increase security on that side. We'll increase security with the paging and announcements. We'll increase security with the buttons on the wall. You know, it's all about communication and security. We're trying to keep everybody safe. So thank you very much. If you have questions, let me know. If you have financial questions, Amy.
Thank you for all your hard work. I appreciate it. This looks great.
Thank you, gentlemen, for all that great information. And the next item of business looks like is Superintendent Reports, Dr. Townsend.
Yes, sir. Our first report's from Financial Update, Ms. Amy Smith, and she can verify what Patrick just said.
I love it when they throw it to me and don't tell me they want to. But we did check. We are good with the money, the cash flow is lost. The items that are eligible through E-rate we'll certainly pursue. We always like to get a little relief from any other source we can. But SPOS, as y'all know, has been going rather well. So we hope we hang on to that. Martha's got my general fund pulled up. Get the old glasses here. The general fund revenue collected through the end of November was 23.65% of the budgeted revenue, and expenditures are 31.40% of the approved budget. We are in line with where we need to be. We have a few items we're going to watch closely. We get this far into the year. We typically issue around 2,200 purchase orders by the end of the year, but not calendar year, school year, fiscal year, by June. We are pushing 1,000 purchase orders issued so far this year. We're processing in the 900s, but we're watching it all closely. Everyone's being cautious with their budget. We've just had some different things this year, but we had anticipated many of them, and we will probably bring a budget amendment come January for a couple of reasons. One is federal grants. We're getting most of them approved. Once we get them approved, then typically if they have rollover from a prior year, you have to do another approval. So we try to not keep coming back to you over and over with little changes. We'll have quite a few federal grant changes for you next month, and that just gets you so you can see exactly what we were awarded and what we're spending it on.
Of course, with these federal grants, we have to go through the consolidated application with the Georgia Department of Education. There is a major red tape process. We go through all of it and get approval from them. So once we jump through all those hoops, we've dotted every I and crossed every T. So we have met their criteria and are spending the money as we're allowed. But we will bring that amendment to you next month. Do y'all have any questions on general fund? And we'll go to the collections report. The SPLOST revenue for November was $532,116.70. We earned interest of $1,977.02. Our expenditures are down as we are closing these large projects. Woohoo, where is Stacy? I'm so happy to finally get some of these. We're really closing out and getting these very large projects that have been going on for the past year over with. But we spent about $331,865.14 in November, and our ending SPLOST balance is $6,419,607.52. We have also concluded, once you earn over $5 million in revenue through a SPLOST tax, you must have an independent audit outside the Georgia Department of Audits conducted. So after your fiscal year ends, so fiscal year 20, we had to contract with a group called Malden and Jenkins, their CPAs, to do an audit separate from the Department of Audits of our SPLOST account, not just account, but everything we did in that fiscal year. They are in the process of writing up their findings, you know, what they found. I don't use the word findings. Their results. The draft report I saw was very good. It's the first time we've done this. It was a lot of information. We learned lots of things. They may give us helpful hints. The report will actually come to the superintendent and the board, but everything looks very good. I'll let y'all, once we get the final report, we'll definitely share it. So hopefully by next month we'll have it at the board meeting. But all is well. Everything that I have seen so far looked great. And I appreciate everybody that helped, and that would be Stacy and Kim Brewer, who we had probably a few thousand pages of information that we had to provide for them, especially being the first audit. We couldn't have done it without Stacy and Kim and lots of folks in my department who we scanned the information in. They did it all off-site, but it went beautifully, and I appreciate the time and effort everybody put in to help us be successful with that. Also, of course, I'm always going to say we are debt-free. And other than that, unless y'all have questions, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Amy. Next is Mr. Stacy Gilleland, our COO.
Short report this week, this month. Maintenance, you may have got some phone calls last week. We got them here for sure, and I know Mr. Wallace did. We had some heating issues at the high school, had a pump go down, and this is one of the things that, you know, I tell you about that we need to do is the remodel of the high school. Is 22 years old. We're going to get some state money here eventually to help us with this, and so in the next SPLOST, as we start collecting, we need to start planning because it's time. Some of this stuff's just wearing out. This pump was 23 years old, 22 and a half years old, and it failed. And then that happens sometimes, but the problem is they don't make them anymore, so we had to retrofit it. And it took me 2 days to find one. So they weren't freezing, but it wasn't comfortable. It was in the middle 60s to upper 60s, and that's not comfortable. And it wasn't the whole building. It was mainly the outer areas because this pumped all that hot water flow out that way to do it. So I apologize. We worked hard on it. I was there till 9 o'clock the night after our meeting we had here. Myself with my tools in my hand working on it because I think I knew more about it than most of them there. So I was digging in with them trying to help them. It's working now. I think we're doing good. Transportation, we did earn a driver out of this last training class. We had 2 take it and only 1 is completed. We hope the other one will, so this one will be getting on board, which will help us out a lot because we're starting to see actually how a driver was flu. So we're seeing some other things besides the COVID start popping its head up. Been a tough week at transportation. Had a couple of, tough 2 weeks. Had a couple of the main people out with COVID. And so they got it while they were not on campus, during the Thanksgiving break, and they haven't been back. So it's been a tough week. We've had to work really hard and put some extra hours in out there, and I had some people really jump in and help me, and I appreciate it. Kim's one of them. Kay Saunders, I need to give her a call out. She's one of our dispatch ladies at transportation and does field trip stuff. She's been working 12, 14-hour days to help me out. So we're gonna make it up to her, I promise you. We will be holding another class after the holidays for CDLs. We got 3 or 4 applications, so y'all just keep praying. We're gonna get a few more people. We need them. Any questions?
Thank you, Stacy. Okay, next is Mr. Chris Wallace, Principal.
Thank you, Dr. Townsend. Board Chair, board members, thank you all for allowing me the opportunity to come and address you this evening, specifically about the graduation rate that was posted here about a month ago for all the districts, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago for the state of Georgia. And this is worthy of pointing out and celebrating, in my opinion, for what we've been able to do with the graduation rate. And I want to say, first of all, that the credit for this doesn't need to go to me or just the high school in general. This is a joint effort among everybody. You guys sitting up here, superintendent, finance people, transportation, food service, teachers at all levels, everybody in the system pours into this. So this is a system celebration and a system graduation rate, not just a high school graduation rate, but it is obviously attached to our high school because we're in one high school county. But I can't thank everybody enough for helping make this happen, because I truly feel like this is made a priority at every level and every part and piece of our system in our district. So very glad we have that kind of support in our community, even outside the system. I'll talk more about that in a minute. But we are going to show you where our rates are right now, and then also a little bit of historical data where we have been and where we came from. This obviously fluctuates with the cohorts that come through each year or each time their 4 and 5 year sequence through the high school. So just a little brief explanation. 4-year, obviously, students that graduate on time in a 4-year span, that's the goal, of course. But the 5-year rate they track as well, because the students get behind, we get rated on if we get those students graduated in that span of time. And that actually, that rate is not counted as heavily or weighted as heavily as the 4-year weight when you start talking about CCRPI, but it's still something we watch very closely and that we try to stay in behind. So, and there's a lot of people that help with that too. We've had the attendance folks in the past and the social workers now that pour into all that, and those people work hard to make that continue to be at a high rate. But this year, the 2020 class of 2020 cohort for 4-year graduation rate was right at 94%, 93.95 to be exact. The state 4-year rate is 83%, so I'm proud to report we're well above the state average, and the state average has been going up. I think it's 6 or 7 consecutive years it's been going up as well. So, the state's figuring out better ways, everybody across the state's finding better ways to make sure we get these students graduated. And it just comes down to teamwork and leveraging all the possible resources in our district and within our county and partnerships to make that happen. So the 5-year rate, as you can see, from 19 to 20, or from 20 back to 19, did fall off a little bit. I've been talking to folks to try to, determine what happens there. And again, it varies with the cohort, but I'm not real overly concerned with that, but that is a reduction. But just so, you kind of put numbers to this, you're talking about 3% or 4% of, a population of 300 students, roughly, sometimes not that many. So, quick math, you're talking 8 or 9 students on 3%. So it's you're not talking about not finding 20 or 30 kids, but, sometimes kids move and they don't enroll, or we aren't able to track them. And so we only can go with the information we have, but we got a lot of good people working on that. And the combined rate is what, you see end up on the CCRPI report. And the state combined rate hadn't been released, but their 4-year rate again was around 83. So really proud of that, and put it down there, the calculation, to show you how that is calculated for combined. So that's just a little historical look at where we're at, where we came from. The next slide, and I've given you guys a handout there, might be a little easier for you to see there, but this is our competition region. as far as our sports and other one-act play and things like that we compete in. So I put all of them up here because from 2020, we were in different play in region, and we picked up 2 schools and lost 2 schools based on the new way they align the region. So even with the new folks in there, we still were the top graduation rate 4-year in our region. And so I'm really, really proud of that. I think that says a lot for, our kids and against the people that are matched up to us based on size for FTE, and also in some of our geographic region, although some of those schools are not real close to us, but that's who we play against. So wanted to give that comparison, and you can see there that there's a wide range all the way down, 10-point range from the bottom to the top. So hopefully we're going to we got Central on our heels there, so we got to make sure we're trying to stay number 1. I'm a little bit competitive, and I think we all should be. So very proud of that. The next slide shows you our RISA region, and in our RISA you have Whitfield County, Murray County, Cherokee County, and Pickens County. And so Cherokee, we have a hard time sometimes competing in some areas. They do a really good job in a lot of areas, but we're above 5 of their 6 schools down there, which I'm proud of. Murray County, I know both of those principals at those schools. Been in different trainings and seminars and things with them, and I think one's been there 12 years and one's been there 11, which I have a lot of respect for. Anybody that can stay that long and be successful, it's unreal how hard you got to work to do that, and you can see they're doing really well. So they got it figured out over there in Murray County and doing some great things, and then one Whitfield County school and one Cherokee County school also. But I like where we're situated there. Obviously, we want to be top, and we want to get up to that 100%. That needs to be our goal. But small increments of ways we can change and help maintain and also increase that. So I'll talk a little bit about that in the next slide. But that just kind of gives you an idea of where we're at with our RISA region. And that is, I think, overall, everybody in our RISA is right at or above the state average, which is also says that that's stiffer competition, when you got everybody up at that high level. So that's something to be proud of for our region. So what I put here is just some factors I want to talk about real quick about what contributes to the success of our high graduation rate. It's in our motto, graduation life preparation for all. That says it right there, which, like I said before, is a district initiative. It's not just something, all right, well, they have to worry about that at high school. All these principals here drive that initiative in their school and drive that to their teachers, and ultimately that drives their students. And so I appreciate that, because if that's not a district initiative, that's really hard to accomplish. So it takes everybody. Also, the partnerships that we have, I can't say enough about Mountain Education Charter High School being here in our district and being firmly planted in this community, and what kind of help that is for our kids that, traditional in-person school just doesn't suit them, or it hasn't been a successful experience for them. And I've seen kids firsthand go over there and be successful, and that's a great partnership we have. They help us a lot, and they're always willing to work and bend over backwards to make sure our kids get what they need. So I really appreciate them. People like Chattahoochee Tech and Reinhardt College, who have some incentive type programs for our kids locally, and the Reinhardt Scholars program for Pickens County students that help give them incentive. There's going to be money there if they go, and then dual enrollment and a lot of the things we do with Chat Tech and the programs they offer. Had a good meeting with them today. Dr. Townsend, Ms. Walker were in with Daniel Bell and some others, just trying to figure out how we go forward and keep making that partnership even better and more opportunities for our kids. And all that ties into, our graduation rate. I think it encourages kids to be a part of something and give them something to work hard for. So not only those partners, but our local partners that always are offering scholarships and incentives and internships and things for our kids to get to do after high school. And just give a shout out a few of those. I won't leave anybody out, but the ones that come to mind immediately are ETC, Amiclola, EMC, Royston, Bent Tree, Big Canoe, and then several various civic groups as well. The other things I want to mention is we offer 24 varsity sports, 4 performing art activities, 24 clubs and CTSOs, which the CTSOs are connected to your CTAE programs, and then 13 AP offerings and 14 CTAE pathways plus CTI and work-based learning. So we try to really offer a wide array of things, because we know there's a direct correlation between kids that get themselves involved and are part of something that they can identify with and their success in high school. The kids that are at risk are the ones that don't get involved as much, and they kind of struggle to find their way sometimes, and then they don't have that motivating factor to want to make sure they finish. So that is a huge part of what we do over there, and we try to offer as much as possible. Again, as one high school county, this is what they have, and we want to make sure it's the best. So that is, all those people that are involved in those activities and offerings are a huge part of this. Maintaining and improving the rates, which I think may be the most important thing going forward. Obviously, we've got to identify and track those at-risk kids, those students who, might pose a risk to be dropouts and get behind on credits and things like that. Those are students we obviously have to track, and I got a great counseling department who work hard with that, and people like Rodney Martin and Angie Allen. I mean, they're working on this all the time, curriculum people and tracking those kids and making sure they're staying up on their credits and helping them when they don't get those, and offering different ways like credit recovery, which we'll talk about there in a second. Tutoring and remediation, we obviously got money to do that. Amy Smith, and you guys obviously provide that for us, but we got that money allocated every month or every year to have those 20-day funds, different things for tutoring. So that's a big part of this. Exit interviews for kids when they do leave our school, making sure they land somewhere. We want to make sure they get enrolled somewhere. So Whitney Carnes is our person there, that kind of handles a lot of that, and she does a really good job and works with us very closely. So she's got a lot on her plate, which both her and Kayla do, and they do a really good job. So just continuing to make sure we're staying on top of that, looking for better ways to do so. I think this year's going to throw us some really serious curveballs in that, because we've got virtual school, which makes another layer that we got to make sure kids are staying on track, and working with Miss Walker and her staff. It's just like everything else. It adds another layer of difficulty this year, but we're working at it, and we'll continue to work at it. So don't want anybody to slip through the cracks. Again, Mountain Education Charter High School, open and consistent communication with them and planning for what they can offer as credit recovery options in the summer, and then making up credits and fulfilling credits for students who get behind, and then making sure we offer virtual options so we don't lose kids somewhere where they go and maybe take a year off, or they come back and decide to go to another place and we lose them somewhere along the way from being able to count them as a graduate. So, and then of course the credit recovery, that's huge. We got some things we do during the day for credit recovery, but we also rely on Mountain Ed to provide some of that as well. So it is all about staying on top of the kids, making sure they don't get too far behind to feel like they can't catch up, and that there's no end in sight for them. We have to work hard for all the students, but especially those falling behind, and make sure that we're providing those safety nets, anything we can to motivate them to stay put there, or at least they do leave, get enrolled and finish and get their high school diploma some way, somehow. So that's all I have for my report on that. And I do want to say I think it's a celebration. I'm really proud of it for our district, for our school, and for that class of 2020 who represented that. And be glad to take any questions or comments you have at this time regarding anything I've talked about this evening.
Mr. Wallace, we're all proud. We're proud of the high school, the staff, the students. It takes a team effort, as you know. And anything we do, such as this, it does take a team. And kudos to you and your team.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Chair, next will be an update, the College Career Academy update. The grant that we will be pursuing this year. Hopefully we'll receive. If not, we'll be going for it again next year. But we're having our first steering committee meeting Monday morning at 10 a.m. at the PAC, at the Performing Arts Center at the high school. Everyone, you're invited. We've got a steering committee, business leaders, educational leaders from Reinhardt, Chat Tech, business leaders throughout the community attending. We're still adding some parents to the committee as well. So make sure we invite you to that. We've got representatives from the Technical College System of Georgia who's in charge of administering the grant to come down and talk to us about some of the best ways to gather that community information that we need, get that community input. That's going to be critical to build this program that we're thinking about doing, to add this on to our high school, to make it a college and career academy, to create that 21st century workforce, to allow kids the opportunity to pick a path, and whether they receive a certificate, a technical degree, a 4-year degree, pick a path where post-secondary is important and encouraged, but they can choose what's best for them. And we think it's important to serve all the kids. We think this will just add on to our graduation rate and others, and not lessen the rigor. We still want AP classes. We still want dual enrollment classes. We still want to have rigorous courses, so we're not dumbing down the curriculum by any means. We're just ramping up the opportunities and ramping up the community engagement inside the schools. And hopefully, we can get rid of COVID. We can bring the business community and our civic groups and our parents back into schools again. I think it's important. I think it's important for every school to have volunteers. Hopefully, we open back up. We'll get those community people back inside the schools, engaged. It's important to have them inside the school. So we're really excited about that. We've got a couple of representatives coming as well. We're going to work hard this year to kind of look at that, work with our staff at the high school, work with the junior high staff, but look at the high school about to help really invigorate our programs, really support them. We're not talking about cutting any current programs that we have now. We know criminal justice is going away. But other than that, that was planned a few years ago. But other than that, our programs we have now, we just want to make sure we solidify them and keep those offerings for our kids and really support our staff and our students. So we're excited about that meeting, 10 o'clock Monday morning at the PAC, and you are invited, of course. And just next, we're going to go to, any questions about that first? Okay, next we're going to go to a COVID guidance update from Ms. Liberatore.
Good evening. As many people have heard, the CDC changed their guidelines last week in regard to quarantine options. Let's see. Yes, I have the clicker here. Okay, the old guidelines, this was pretty much the one-size-fits-all. It was a 14-day quarantine if anybody was a direct contact to anybody who was infected with the COVID-19 virus. That could be anybody with family, friend, at school, out of school, in a sporting event, or anything like that. Flat 14 days. I highlighted one of the other criteria, that a negative test will not remove a person from the need to quarantine. That had been a standby that the CDC and DPH had supported and encouraged throughout the time. That's now changed. Okay. Whoop, I'm sorry, somehow. Okay, we now have 3 options. As of Monday, Pickens County School District sent out a mass communication with Mr. Shea's help to all the parents, letting them know about the 3 options they have if their child or a teacher or anybody is quarantined. As a matter of fact, I was having some personal calls coming in to me today asking me about these different options. Okay, the first one is still the 14-day quarantine period. That is still highly recommended by the CDC and therefore also by DPH. That is the automatic default. If we have to send a child home or a teacher home for quarantine, we automatically put them on the 14-day option. Option 2 is a 10-day quarantine period, returning on day 11. I have to specify that because some people get confused on which day that they can actually come back. They can return on day 11 if no symptoms have been reported during the monitoring of their status during those 10 days. When they return, masks must be worn through day 14, and they need to continue self-monitoring and make sure that they are not showing any signs or symptoms. So that went from a 14-day down to a 10-day with that understanding. Option 3, it can actually go down to a 7-day quarantine period. That's a big difference from the 14 down to the 7-day. But with these requirements, and this is where it gets a little bit sticky, they need to take a PCR test, not a rapid test for COVID, and that needs to be taken between day 5 and 6, and the results need to come back negative before anybody returns back to the school. They may not show any signs or symptoms of COVID, and they must continue to wear the masks through day 14. Now, I will say that I like the options because this will actually help many of the parents that we have in the school district. Many of the parents are single parents. They may have young kids. They cannot leave their kids at home, and they're missing work due to the 14-day quarantine. They now have options. Option 2 and 3, they just need to contact the school or Gail Smith or myself, and we can change the quarantine option to the parent's choice. And actually, I brought my numbers with me. This just came out on Monday evening, I believe, late Monday. Already, we've had 15 people choose the quarantine 10-day, and 1 go with 7 days with the test already in 1 week. So that shows that the parents are seeing it and they are listening. When we send students home with a letter stating that they are quarantined and the date of their return, just like we've always done, now on the back side, we have an additional side. I actually printed it and forgot to bring it in, but it again outlines these options for the parents. They don't have to rely on the communication we sent home on Monday. They actually have it in hand if their child goes home. And that was actually pretty easy, but there's one little caveat. Athletes. Because of the fact that athletes are not able to distance themselves as well or wear a mask when they're running around and so forth, the state has come out with this statement that student athletes who end quarantine after 7 or 10 can return to practice if they can adhere to the mitigation measures, including mask usage and staying socially distanced at least 6 feet apart. However, they cannot return to contest or competition until the 14 days have passed. That again, if you can imagine wrestlers, you can't very well wrestle with a mask on, and you're breathing heavily on each other. So it's just an added safety precaution. Okay, that is actually all the change that there is. Just we went from 1 option to 3 options, and parents get the choice. Do we have any questions?
I have children spread across multiple schools. If one of them should be sent home with a letter, and we opt for the 7-day with the test, do all 3 children need the negative test before returning to school, or the one sent home with the quarantine letter, does that negative test cover all 3?
Yeah, sir, we can definitely answer that right after the meeting.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to speak out of
No,
turn.
it's
I
okay.
thought I could
We'll be
ask
glad to
a
help you out. No worries at all. We'll help you out.
I apologize.
That's okay.
Thank you.
Okay, next we've got a Pickens Virtual Academy presentation update. Miss Anita Walker. Now we'll jump in when you need me.
Good evening. This information was presented at a work session for the board last week, but we wanted to present it again for a larger audience and for more media in case, we could have more of our public see the information as well. So forgive me, but I may be looking more this way because you guys have already heard it one time. But I do want you to know that most of this data was gathered from a report on November the 20th, which was the day prior to our Thanksgiving break. We will be talking about students who are on track and not on track with their courses. And for K-8 students, that's going to be students who are on progress, meaning they've completed the appropriate amount of the course and are passing 3 out of 4 of their core courses. Now at the high school, that will be 3 out of 4 of their courses because they get a credit for each one of those. So first, what we have here are the percentages of students who are on track when they return to the traditional setting, because we did take a large number of our students who were virtual at the beginning of the year who wanted to go back to the traditional setting. The blue is students who were on track, and I've calculated this based on when they did return, because we had students returning at different times. The orange is the percentage of students who were not on track when they returned. As you can see, these numbers are not good. That's not something that we're really proud of, but we knew with these students that they weren't being successful. So that was not really surprising to us. I took many of the phone calls from the parents who wanted their child to return. So these were just some common reasons. Initially, we had lots of technology issues with Pearson. I think they did not expect to have such a large number of students using their program. So they had some things that they had to work out. And, you know, some parents didn't like that. Students didn't like it. Many said this is just too difficult for me to do. The time commitment, we have lots of our parents, both of them work full-time or even more hours than full-time, and it was too much for them to come home and to work with their children. You know, I think a lot of them thought that it would be like our virtual learning in the spring, and we tried to advertise that very well, but then some of them still didn't expect it to be as it is. The students' ability to manage their time, where they're held more accountable, that was reasons that we heard. And the younger kids, a lot of them, the parents said they just could not focus being at home in front of that computer. So now we're going to get to our students who are current virtual students and the percentage of them that were on track on November the 20th. The first, again, is blue, our students who are on track, and the orange, the students who are not on track. So you can see K4, we're doing pretty well there. Grades 5 and 6, again 5 is good. I want to go back to this one. You can see as we get into the higher grade levels, that percentage on track does go down from the first 3 grades there. Starting in 6th grade, we start to see a large decline. And we'll talk about that in just a second. 7th and 8th grade, we still see that decline. Now, due to class size, we were not allowed to, or we couldn't send as many students back there to the traditional setting, but we do have students that are going back 2nd semester. But when I talked to parents, just, you know, if they were having issues or just needed some support, and our folks at the Pickens virtual building as well, one thing that we found out when we talked to these parents, the K-5 parents would talk about sitting close to their student and monitoring their student, helping them out. So they're making sure that those assignments gets done. When I've talked to those parents who have older students, they'll say, well, I thought they were on track. They told me they were working. They were in their room. I saw their laptop open. So I think that's some differences that we see in the percent complete and the achievement for our lower grades compared to our higher grades. Another thing, the K-5 curriculum, it has more videos than what we see at the higher levels. Those students have to read to get a lot of the information, and that takes a lot more time. It takes a lot more ability. You know, they're used to teachers delivering that information, maybe through PowerPoint or through lecture, but they're having to gain that on their own. One thing I didn't put up here that's we're going to talk about a lot here in these next few slides is time that's put into the program. Do you want to add anything, Dr. Townsend, before I move on?
No, that's good, thank you.
Okay, so with the time spent, I decided I would look at each of our students in 6th grade. I did this through 6th, 7th, and 8th, who were not on track. I looked at each course that they were not on track in and found out how many hours that they spent in that class. Now, up to November 20th, we had a little over 60 days of virtual school. So we recommend in their core classes or at the high school for sure that they spend an hour a day in those courses. We found if they spend an hour a day, then they're pretty much on track if they're putting forth the effort.
For each class, right?
For each class, yes. So that would be for 4 academics, 4 hours a day. So as you can see, the majority of our students have put in 0 to 10 hours in those classes.
Ms. Walker, if I can
Yes.
add something real quick. One of the things too that goes unmentioned sometimes, you'll probably mention in a minute, but our teachers do offer extra hours at times, either after school, at night, even on weekends. I've heard teachers doing Google Meets at night when parents get home because they weren't able to help the child out much during the day. Either a grandparent or a caregiver would help out, and the parents would get home and really sit down with their student or something like that, and then meet with the teacher at times on Google Meets or Zoom or whatever else. But we do have our teachers who are working hard and doing whatever they can to try to increase those hours, whether it's those students in person, at home working on the virtually, whether getting tutored help that we talked about up here, or through the individual or group sessions with the teacher online.
Right. Okay. The next chart, I did just a pie graph there so that you can see the blue is our students, the hours they've spent 0 to 30. So that's basically half amount of the time that they should. This would be half to what they should be spending, 28% in 6th grade. These are in 7th grade, and again, this is just the students who are not on track. And these are the classes that they were not on track in. A little bit better, 37%, but still, that's not what we need to see. I mentioned to the board last week, you know, when you have these students who it's hard to motivate and to get them to do their work, it's challenging in a classroom where you can talk to them and you can, you know, give some consequences when they're not doing their work. But when they're miles away from you and your communication is email or Google Meet that you can't make sure that they get to, this makes it even more challenging for us. 8th grade, real similar to 6th grade there. %, 30 minutes to an hour or more. All right, at the high school level, I broke it down a little bit different because Mr. Wallace and the PVA staff have agreed to a different plan for our high school students because they're on the block schedule. In a block, you have to do a year's worth of the course to get credit, okay? So our virtual courses are in Part A section and Part B. So at the high school, those students have to do all of Part A and all of Part B, which is a lot for them to have to do. We started school 2 weeks late. We knew we had some issues at the very beginning with the technology and just the kids getting used to the program. So we're going to allow an extension plan for them in order that they can hopefully receive credit for the class without having to start all over. They can just continue to work. So with this, the percentage on track right now without needing an extension, and like I said, this was back November the 20th. I know some of them has really got on the ball these past few weeks. Little less than 50%, I think it was right at 47%. The percentage on track, if we look at those that would qualify for the extension, was about 15%. So when we put those two together, we're looking at approximately 62% of the students who would be on track with that. Now, some of them may earn half a credit because they may get Part A completed, but not Part B, but we can still allow them to earn half a credit for those courses and then go into credit recovery for Part B. This explains a little bit more about the extension plan. The student does have to have Part A completed with a passing score and at least 30% of Part B with a passing score. And then the student will be given 9 weeks during the second semester to finish Part B from the first semester. Now again, that's with their other classes. They can just do this in the evening, weekends, or whatever. If it's an athlete though, those students, based on GHSA rules, they will only have a 2-week extension to get theirs complete. That's not us, that's GHSA. Whoops. Oh, sorry about that. I don't know what I hit there. Martha? see if you can help me out there. I can't get those last few slides.
I've got a hard copy.
There we go. There we go. As Dr. Townsend was talking about the support from our teachers, greatly. Teachers have reached out to students who need help. They're there for questions. We have checkpoint dates, so every 2 weeks, if someone was not on track, then those students, their parents got contacted. Our social workers meet with our PBA staff who do an exceptional job weekly to see who's not performing as they should be or just not doing the work. They make home visits. Joe Page from PBA, Pickens Virtual Academy, he's gone out with a social worker as well. These parents are ticketed for truancy when their students are not doing anything. We have had a few that have been court ordered to return to traditional school second semester. We've all been making contacts for those kids who are not on progress or on track to try to get them to come back to school traditionally, because we feel like that's the best place for the kids, is in the classroom. So I do have some good news from last week that I'll tell y'all here in just a minute. These are the small group meetings or individual meetings that Dr. Townsend talked about through the Google Meets. We also offer face-to-face tutoring for K-6 students over at the PBA building. At the 7-8 and, well, 5-6 now, 7-8 and at the high school, our virtual students can attend tutoring there after school as well. All right, this is the number of our current virtual students. We started out with a little over 1,200. We're just a little below 900 now. Last week when I presented, we were looking at 614 students for second semester. That's now down to about 550 from all the people reaching out and the phone calls. We've had some parents call back and change their mind. Principals, I know you've been getting those emails because you're wanting to get your schedule set, but if somebody calls and they want to come back traditionally, that's where we want them. So, you know, up until January 5th, we'll probably be taking those changes for those kids.
Okay, questions for Ms. Walker? Okay, thank you. I just want to say, again, a team effort. Appreciate all the principals and your staffs to making sure the virtual school, virtual teachers are doing well.
Yes, and I forgot to mention this last week, so I don't want to forget again, but I want to thank Destini Shope because we were working on this and she was great. I gave her the information and she put it into the slides, so thank you, Destini. I greatly appreciate that.
Thanks, Destiny. Mr. Chair, I won't get it back to you, but I just want to say to everybody, I appreciate everybody's hard work, their diligence through these times. It's not easy during COVID, during the pandemic. Our staff's done. They're working hard inside the schools. They want what's best for the kids. We want the best for all kids. And so really proud of them, really proud of our parents sticking with us, whether it's been in traditional form or virtual form. So I think we have a lot to be thankful for. And I just want to say Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everybody, and thank you for
there. Okay, that brings us down to section 8, action items. First action item for our consideration tonight is approval of financial reports that Ms. Smith presented. Do I hear a motion to approve those financial reports?
I'll make it.
Motion by Mr. Smith, do I hear a second?
Second. Second.
Is that Destini?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. If y'all could just speak up just a little, I had trouble hearing. Sorry about that. Motion by Mr. Smith, second by Ms. Enos. Any further discussion? All in favor? 5 and none opposed. Those financial reports are approved. Second, action item, approval of personnel. We've all had a chance to review the PAR. I hear a motion to approve that as presented.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Smith. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Holland. Any further discussion? All in favor? 5 and none opposed. The PAR is approved. Third action item, approval of the 2021-2022 Pickens County School System calendar. We've been considering calendars for the past month or so and put out some community input surveys, staff-wide surveys, and got, I believe, over 1,200 respondents and got some good information on that. Do I hear a motion to approve the final recommended 21-22 calendar?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Ms. Gilleland, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Holland.
Yes.
Any further discussion? All in favor? 5 and none opposed. The 2021-2022 calendar is approved. Fourth action item, approval of the January 2021 regular board meeting date. We discussed this last week to continue with the second Thursday in January. I believe it's January 14th at the same time, 6 p.m. That continues with the tradition. I hear a motion to approve that January 21 regular board meeting date.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Ms. Finley, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Smith, any further discussion? All in favor? 5 none opposed, that meeting is set. Item E, the approval of school safety and communications system. This is the presentation we received from Mr. Shea and with a little help from Mr. Gilleland. As always, this will be a project, capital improvement project that does qualify for SPOS funds. As Ms. Smith acknowledged, we have plenty of money there from SPOS dollars to utilize. Carol Daniel, who does a great job, our construction management company would oversee that whole process. A little pricey, as you can see. I believe around total price for the entire upgrades around $1.4 million, but this is system-wide. It does encompass all of the upgrades they talk about. And after hearing kind of Mr. Shea say this is something that's needed to be done for a long time, I don't see any point in kicking the can down the road. We're in a good spot now. To go ahead and make those improvements. So
Mr. Chair,
that we approve that.
Mr. Chair, can
communications system.
Tucker.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Tucker, can I interrupt for a second, Mr. Green? We're having technology issues, so they can't see everything in front of them. The VoIP system is $354,699. The intercom system upgrade is the 1.4 you're referring to, $1,408,049. Also, again, this is coming out of East Plus dollars, and some of it can come out of E-rate. Majority of it will be East Plus dollars. And we've got everything up at e-board, so you should be able to see that in e-board as well, and it is open for public viewing as well. So those are things that you can't see on the screen right now because of the technology issues.
My apologies, the screen I up on my end is working, so I didn't realize I couldn't see that. I'm sorry. Nonetheless, I'm going to, if this is a necessary upgrade, I'm going to make a motion to approve this school safety communication system. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Smith. Any further discussion? All in favor? 5 and none opposed. That is approved. Action item F, approval of change order number 1 at Pickens High Tennis Courts. This is a good change order. This is a deduction of $67,000 from the original maximum bid they gave us. So I hear a motion to approve that change order.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Ms. Enos, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Smith. Any further discussion? All in favor? 5 and none opposed. That is approved. Item G, approval of MOU with Capella University. This is a standard agreement like we do with many colleges and technical schools. Do I hear a motion to approve that MOU?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Ms. Enos, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Smith. Any further discussion? All in favor? 5 and none opposed. That MOU is approved. Action item H is approval of minutes. This is for the November 12th called and regular meeting, as well as the December 3rd called meeting work session. Everyone's had a chance to review those. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Smith. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Holland. Any further discussion? All in favor? 5, none opposed. The minutes are approved. Next item I, approval of surplus. There's several items of surplus, some from Harmony, some from Technology, some from PHS, as well as Tate Elementary. Most of it is outdated or library books, and there's also some, I think, broken Chromebooks and things in there. So here a motion to approve the surplus as presented.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Smith. Do I hear a second?
Second. That was Miss Enos.
Oh, I'm sorry. Motion by Ms. Enos. Do I hear a second?
No, Steve did the first and Miss Enos did the second.
Okay, I knew I heard Mr. Smith in there. Motion by Mr. Smith, second by Ms. Enos. Any further discussion? All in favor? 5, none opposed. The surplus is approved. Okay, action item J, this is the client services agreement. I hear a motion to approve that as presented.
I'll make it.
Motion by Mr. Smith, do you hear a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Enos. Any further discussion? All in favor? 5, none opposed. That agreement is approved. Action item K, an intern scholarship. I believe this is for the speech pathologist intern. I hear a motion to approve that.
I'll approve. Or motion.
Motion
Approve.
motion by Mr. Holland. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Finley. Any further discussion? All in favor? 5, none opposed. That action item is approved. Brings us down to section 9, board comments. Any board comments? None being. Brings us down to our final action tonight. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Smith. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Enos. Any further discussion? All in favor? 5 and none opposed. We are adjourned at 7:12. Appreciate everybody joining us tonight. Hope everyone has a safe and happy holiday.